Maddie, and today I'm finding out about the weather. I wonder what the weather will be like today. I've got some water to drink, sunglasses because the sun's out, and an umbrella, which I can put up if it starts to rain. But why does it rain? And where does the rain come from? How does rain work? Let's find out. How does it work?
Clouds and rain.
Water is really, really important. We need fresh water to drink, and animals and plants need water so they can stay healthy too. You can see water in rivers, streams, and there's lots of salty water in the sea. But the really interesting thing is that water comes from up there in the sky as drops of rain. And the drops of rain that come from clouds are part of what's called the water cycle. Have you ever noticed there are all sorts of different shapes and sizes? What shapes can you see? That cloud looks like a jumping rabbit. Oh, and that cloud looks a bit like a duck. There are lots of different types of clouds, but there are 3 main cloud shapes, and they all have special names. These are cirrus clouds, and they look like little tufts or wisps of hair. These are stratus clouds. They're flat, low in the sky, and we tend to see them when it's foggy and misty. And my favourite, cumulus clouds. Cumulus clouds are fluffy and bumpy. I think they look a little bit like cotton wool. And we can also get rain clouds. A cumulus could grow into one of these, a cumulonimbus. These are huge, high in the sky, grey, and if you see a cumulonimbus, it's probably going to rain. But to find out how rain comes from clouds, I think we need to take a closer look. When the sun shines on the sea, the water heats up, turning the liquid water into a gas called water vapour. Water vapour is very light, so it rises up into the sky. This is called evaporation. As the water vapour reaches the sky, it cools down, turning into tiny water droplets. Clouds are made from lots and lots of water droplets. They bump into each other and stick together, getting bigger and bigger until they're too heavy and turn into rain. The rain lands on the ground and runs back into the rivers and sea, where the sun heats up the water and the whole cycle starts again. This is called the water cycle. The water cycle is incredible, isn't it? But did you know that we can measure the clouds so that we know when it might rain? It's called forecasting. The weather forecast tells us what the weather might be like in the next few days, and it uses special symbols like this, which means it's going to be sunny. This one means cloudy. And what do you think this one means? That's right. It means rain is coming. To find out where we get the information for a weather forecast, I've come to a weather centre. Forecasting the weather needs lots of information, and all of that is stored on a very, very powerful computer. It's so powerful, they call it a supercomputer. Oh, can you hear that whirring noise? That's the sound of lots of fans spinning round and round. The supercomputer works so hard that the electrics can get really hot, so the fan helps to cool them down. The computer's first job is to work out where the clouds are, and it does this using a cloud-based recorder. This sends an invisible beam of light into the sky. The beam then hits the base of a cloud and will bounce back, telling the cloud-based recorder how high the cloud is. But there is another way to see the clouds from above. High up in space, there are special cameras called satellites that look a little bit like this. Weather satellites take pictures of the clouds, and they'll send all of that information to dishes like this one. Using the information from the cloud-based recorders and the weather satellites, the people who work here and the supercomputer can figure out where the clouds are going and whether or not it's going to rain. And look, here are some pictures of clouds that the weather satellites are seeing from space. How incredible is that? Here at the Weather Centre, all of that information about clouds is used to create the weather forecast. And they're filming one right now.
And we can expect to see cloud and rain.
I loved finding out how clouds are made. What was your favourite bit? Can you remember what the clouds are called that look a bit like cotton wool? That's right, they're called cumulus clouds. Did you hear the whirring sound the fan made as it cooled the supercomputer down? And did you see the pictures of the clouds that the special satellite cameras took all the way from space? Sometimes, when it's raining and chilly outside, it's fun to do things inside where it's nice and warm, like jigsaw puzzles. Lots of houses are kept warm with these. Do you know what it's called? That's right, a radiator. A radiator helps to keep our home warm because it's full of warm water that travels around our house through pipes. But do you know how a radiator's made? Let's find out. How is it made?
Radiator.
To find out how radiators are made, I've come to a radiator factory. They make 6,000 radiators here every single day. That's a lot of radiators. They make lots of different types of radiators, but today we're making a white radiator with grooves. Radiators can be made from different types of metal, but our radiator is made from a metal called steel. Can you see that one piece of metal is being rolled underneath and another is rolled on top? It's a bit like a sandwich. But the radiator we're making isn't flat, it needs grooves in it. Next, the metal goes through a really heavy press that chomps down and it bends the steel into that bumpy, groovy pattern. Look! Chomp and groove! Chomp and groove! Chomp and groove! The pressure when it chomps down is about 650 tons, and that's the same weight as 72 T-Rex dinosaurs. But even that much pressure isn't enough to stick the two panels of steel together, so they need to go to the spot welding machine. The copper tips are really hot. They melt the steel and that glues them together. Now the radiator panels are stuck together, it's time for this machine to make the inside of the radiator. It sounds like a drumming band. This makes a part called the convector panel, and it goes in between the front and back radiator panels. It's like the radiator's sandwich filling. And look, the convector panels are being stuck to the radiator panels. The spot-welded radiator panels have to be sealed at the edges so all the water doesn't fall out. An electric current passes through the copper wheels to the steel, which welds them together because everything gets really, really hot. It melts the steel a little bit like glue. Look, you can see all the steam coming off. Another steamroller seals the two ends of the radiator panel. This is where the two panels, a front and a back, come together and will be connected with a pipe, and that's where the water will go in and out of our radiator. And that warm water is what heats up the radiators and our houses. Here one comes! That looks like a radiator, doesn't it? But next, it's going for a bath to be tested for leaks. Two robot arms plug into the connector pipe and they fill the radiators with air, and then they go for a dunk in the water. If there are any leaks, we should see lots of bubbles. All looks fine here. Next, the radiators are hung up on this long line. It's like a giant washing line for radiators.
So let's watch where they go with my special camera.
Look, can you see the radiator drying off? The droplets of water are dripping down the grooves. But where are they going next?
The radiators go to a huge tank to be painted.
Let's go see.
This tank is 25 metres long and the radiators will be in there for about a minute.
After that, they go into a big dryer.
I can really feel the heat, and now the first coat of paint is dry. Then they go into here where they're sprayed with a second coat of paint. It's called powder coating and it gives the radiators a lovely smooth finish. And here we have a finished radiator. Doesn't it look bright and shiny?
What did you like most about seeing how radiators are made? Can you remember the name of the metal that was used to make a radiator? That's right, steel. Did you hear the sound the press made when it made the convector panel? And did you see my special camera when it went for a ride on the radiator? So the next time you're cosy inside, you'll know how a radiator was made to keep us warm. And if it's raining outside and you see clouds in the sky, you'll know how they got there. I'll see you next time. Hello, I'm Maddie, and today I'm tucking into a yummy salad. It's got lots of fruits and vegetables in it, like lettuce, and my favourite, tomatoes. Just here, I've got red ones, orange ones, yellow ones, and even green ones. Tomatoes start out as a seed, but how does something as small as this grow into an enormous plant? Do you know how plants grow? How does it work? Let's find out. How does it work?
Plants.
To find out how plants grow, I've come to a tomato growing farm. Here they grow tomatoes in giant glass houses called greenhouses. They have thousands of tomato plants here, which grow over 80 tons of tomatoes every single week. That's heavier than a space shuttle. And the rows of tomatoes are very, very long. But what happens at the very beginning when a plant starts to grow? This container will let us see what happens to a seed when it starts to grow. And this is called germination. So, first we need some soil. And cover it up. Water. Sunlight. And something called carbon dioxide, which it gets from the air around us. But it takes time for a seed to germinate and start to grow. So I think we should film this with one of my special cameras. This camera will let me film something called a time-lapse. And a time-lapse means that we can film something that happens really slowly, but when we watch it back later, it will happen much faster. We start our experiment on day 1. But it's not until day 4 that a tiny green shoot starts to appear from the seed, and then a little leaf pops out. The shoot grows taller and taller towards the sun. After 2 whole weeks, that's 14 days, the plant is 10 centimetres tall. Wasn't that time-lapse brilliant? But what happens after germination? To grow bigger and stronger, a plant makes its own food. And this is called photosynthesis. But to find out how photosynthesis works, I think we need to take a closer look. Plants get light from the sun, water from the ground, and carbon dioxide from the air. Inside the plant's stem, water is sucked up from the ground through a tube called the xylem. On the leaves are tiny holes called stomata that let the carbon dioxide gas in and let oxygen gas out. Inside the leaves are lots and lots of tiny cells. And inside the cells are the chloroplasts, which have a chemical inside called chlorophyll. Chlorophyll traps sunlight. And when the carbon dioxide gas, water and sunlight mix together in the chlorophyll, it makes glucose. And glucose gives the plant energy to grow. Wasn't that interesting? Why don't we go take a look and find out how they grow plants inside this greenhouse? Sunlight comes through the glass roof so the plants can take the energy they need from the sun for photosynthesis. And then the glass traps the sun's energy inside, which keeps the plants nice and warm. The roof also collects rainwater, so the plants inside the greenhouse have something to drink. That rainwater is pumped back into the greenhouse, just here. Can you hear it trickling? Most plants grow in soil. But here in this greenhouse, they grow out of these plastic gullies that hold all of the water and nutrients that the plants need to grow. It's like a mat of twisted threads. The xylem inside the tomato plant's stem sucks up this water and the nutrients to help the plants grow tall. These tomato plants have already been growing for over a year, and because tomato plants grow up, it means that the youngest part of the plant is actually at the very top. Shall we go and take a look? This is Rolly, and he looks after the plants here at the tomato growing farm, and he's given me special permission to use this machine. It's called a hydraulic trolley. Up and away. Wow! Wow! Look at all of these tomato plants! We are so high up. These plants are 4 meters tall. And they're covered in these little yellow flowers, and they will grow into tomatoes. So to see some, we have to go to an older part of the plant. That's a bit lower down. Just 4 weeks later, and those flowers have now grown into tomatoes. But these aren't quite ready to eat yet. We say that they're not ripe. And we want to find some that are. The tomatoes ripen and turn red by making more glucose. These tomatoes are about 9 weeks old. They are red and juicy, and I think they look good enough to eat. I loved finding out how plants grow. What was your favourite bit? Do you remember the name when the seed begins to grow roots? That's right, it's called germination. Did you hear the sound of the rainwater being pumped into the greenhouse? And did you see how high the plants grew when we went up the special lift? Have you ever been digging in the garden? It's fun, isn't it? For most plants to grow big and strong, they need soil. I've got a special type of soil here. It's called compost. But what's the difference between this compost and soil from the ground? Do you know how compost is made? Let's find out. How is it made?
Compost.
To find out how compost is made, I've come to a compost farm. We can make compost in lots of different ways. Inside compost bins, compost stacks, and some compost piles are so big they need to be moved by tractors. But here they make compost in big bags and big bins. Making compost is really important because it gives us a way to reuse some of our food and plant waste that could just end up in our bins. To make compost, we need a few important waste ingredients. First, we've got green waste. And green waste can be things like grass cuttings, weeds, there's some tea bags here, and banana skins. Next, we need brown waste. Here I've got some old egg cartons, cardboard, dry newspaper, and some dry leaves. Last, we need lots and lots of different types of bugs. Whoa. Look at all of these wiggly worms. These play a really important part in making compost. Wow. So how do all these materials get turned into compost? This is Ken. He looks after the farm and he's going to show me how to make compost. And first, we're putting in a layer of brown waste. Compost is made in layers, a bit like a big trifle. The first layer is brown waste, but with lots of sticks and twigs, which creates gaps so the air can move around it. Then we've got our green layer. This is our grass cuttings, weeds, and our vegetable peelings. On top goes another brown and a green waste layer. And finally, everything gets covered with a layer of brown waste. And I've got some dry leaves here to add to the mix. Make a lovely crunchy sound, don't they? Have you ever seen a banana go brown and mushy? And we say that it's decomposing. And that's what's going to happen to all of the layers inside this compost bin. But there's something else that helps with decomposing. Do you know what it is? That's right, it's the bugs. What can you see? There's a millipede, a couple of woodlice, a type of beetle. But let's not forget the worms. And I think we should take a look at one under my special camera. This is my special microscope camera, and it lets me see small things much bigger. There are so many worms. Whoa, look at that. Oh, they look really squelchy, don't they? That there is the worm's head, and this is its bottom. And a worm can eat and poo its body weight in waste every single day. And this helps to decompose the waste and make the compost. But there are lots of other living things in this compost that we can't see. Things like fungi and bacteria. We call things this small microscopic. But they're so tiny, we can't see them with our own eyes or my special camera. In fact, in a piece of compost this small, there could be 1 billion bacteria. And just like the bugs and worms, they help decompose the waste. But what does the compost look like after a few months? Oh! Okay, so the top few layers haven't really changed much. I can still see some newspaper and some vegetable fruit peelings that look the same.
If we go lower, can you see they've started to mix together, and that is really beginning to look like compost.
But does the compost look different after a whole year?
Yes, it does. Can you see all of the layers are really well mixed together now, and we have a dark, rich brown colour. The creatures and bugs inside have been busy decomposing all of that waste material, and now we have a lovely compost.
I think this is going to make some plants grow really big and strong.
I loved finding out how compost is made. What was your favourite part?
Do you remember what it's called when the material breaks down? That's right, it's decomposing. Did you hear the sound of the crunchy leaves? And did you see the worms wiggling around on this special camera?
So the next time you see a compost bin, you'll know how the bugs and microbes inside it are working to make that special soil. And when you next eat a tomato, you'll know how it grew from a tiny seed. I've got a box of freshly picked tomatoes just here, all ready to turn into another salad. I'll see you next time. Hello, I'm Maddie.
And today I'm going for a trip on a sailing boat.
Look, there's one over there.
The sailing boat is floating on the lake. There are lots of things that can float on water, like a big colourful beach ball and even ducks. But not everything floats. Some things, like this pebble, sink. So why does a big boat with people in it float when a small pebble sinks?
Do you know why a boat floats?
Let's find out. How does it work?
Floating.
To find out how floating works, I've come to a boating lake. This is Libby, and it's Libby's job to sail boats here at the boating lake. She's called the helm.
And to sail the boats, Libby uses this, the main sail. This is what the wind pushes to make the boat move.
It looks a bit like a giant bed sheet, doesn't it? The main sail helps to catch the wind and sail the boat along. The body of the boat is called the hull.
And look, can you see the hull is wide and flat?
And the shape is really important for helping the boat to float along. Let's find out how. I've got a piece of modelling clay. I'm going to shape it into something that looks a bit like the hull of a sailing boat. A bit like this. I'm going to place this bit of modelling clay in a bowl of water. Let's see what happens. It floats. Now, I've got the same amount of modelling clay here, but this time it's rolled up into a ball. What do you think will happen when I drop this into the water? Let's find out. It sinks. But what makes the modelling clay float or sink? Well, it's all down to something called density. Density is how much space something takes up and how much it weighs, how heavy it is. When the modelling clay is shaped like this, it takes up more space than when it's rolled into a ball.
So that means when it's dropped in the water, it floats because it has a low density. But when the same clay is shaped like a ball, it sinks because it takes up less space and has a high density.
But how else does the shape of a boat help it to float? Let's take a closer look.
When a boat goes into water, the hull sinks a little and pushes water out of the way. This is called displacement. When water is displaced, it tries to go back to where it was, and this pushes the boat up. We call this force buoyancy. The more water the boat displaces, the more buoyant it is. Everything on Earth is pushed down by a force called gravity. But when buoyancy pushing the boat up is the same as gravity pushing the boat down, the boat floats.
That was really interesting. To show you how displacement works, I'm going to put some ice cubes in the glass of water. And I'm drawing a line on the glass to mark the water level. But all of this is going to happen really quickly, so I'm going to film it using my special slow motion camera. Okay, the camera is ready. Let's drop in some ice. Did you hear the splashing sound as the ice dropped in? It did happen quite fast though, didn't it? So let's look at the footage on my slow motion camera.
As the ice cube goes in, gravity pulls it down. Then the ice cube starts to float.
That's because the ice cube has displaced the water.
And can you see the displaced water has made the water level go up? It's now above the black line.
I think we should see floating in action for ourselves by setting sail. Now, you should never play near water without a grown-up, but I've got special permission to go onto the boat.
Do you remember that the shape of the hull helps to displace water and let the boat float?
Well, most of the hull is hidden under the water. So I've asked one of the crew to attach my special underwater camera to the hull so we can see what's happening underwater.
Look at the wide, curved hull of the boat. That's the part the displaced water pushes up against to make the boat buoyant. And look, on this special camera attached to the top of the main sail, you can see the water being displaced.
This is floating in action! I love finding out how a boat floats. What was your favourite part?
Can you remember what we call the boat when it's floating on the water? That's right, we say it's buoyant. Can you remember the sound the ice cube made when I dropped it in the glass? And on my special camera, do you remember seeing the hull of the boat as we floated on the lake?
Have you ever been to the seaside? Out at sea, there are boats, and on land, there might be a beach. I like wiggling my toes in the sand. I like to draw pictures in the sand. And I love making sandcastles. It's really fun, isn't it? But where does the sand come from? Do you know how sand is made? Let's find out.
How is it made?
Sand.
To find out how sand is made, I've come to a beach. There's lots of different types of sand, and that's because sand is made of different things.
White sand is sometimes made of coral, which lives in the sea. And black sand is made from lava that came from an erupting volcano.
But the sand on this beach mostly comes from those cliffs. But how do these huge browny yellow cliffs turn into tiny grains of sand? To find out, we need to get up there.
It's really high up on the cliff. You must never walk close to the edge without a grown-up.
It's quite windy up here. Wind has an important job in making sand. Wind carries tiny, tiny pieces of rock in it, and when it blows against the cliffs, they wear the rock down a little.
You can't see these tiny pieces of rock in the wind, but you can see how they made this rock bumpy.
Over time, the bigger rock is broken down into smaller pieces. This is called weathering.
But it's not just the wind that causes weathering.
Even the sun weathers the rock. Can you see all of the cracks in the path? The ground has been baked by the heat from the sun, which has made it dry and shrink. We call this contracting.
And rainwater can also weather the rocks when it falls from the sky into these cracks.
In the winter winter, when it gets cold and frosty, the rainwater freezes and it gets bigger. We say that it expands. But when the water expands, it breaks the rock a little bit. It takes a long time for weathering to happen, but whenever it's warm enough for the ice to melt and cold enough for the water to freeze, the rock breaks a little bit and, eventually, the rock breaks apart. But what's happening at the bottom of the cliff, by the sea? Can you see the water is quite far away from the cliffs at the moment? The seawater actually comes in and out at different times of the day, every day. We call this the tide. And look, on this beach, we can see the tide moving. When the water is far away from the land, we say the tide is out. But when it gets close, we say the tide is in. We can hear the water moving in and out, can't we? When the tide moves all the way in, the seawater will crash against the rocks. Look, the tide is getting really close to the cliffs now. It wears them down a little bit every day. This is called weathering too. When rocks are weathered into small pieces, the small pieces are carried away by wind or water. This is called erosion. And to show you how erosion works, I'm going to use this box filled with sand. The sand has been shaped to look a little bit like the cliffs on this beach. What do you think will happen when I blow the top of the sand with a paper straw? That's right, some of it is blown off the pile. That's the same as the small pieces of rock being moved by the wind. This is erosion. Next, I'm adding some water to the box. This is going to be our sea, and I'm using a piece of card to make the tide. Oh, look at that! It's moving the loose sand at the bottom of our cliff and it's carrying it away. That's erosion too. Over time, weathering and erosion turns the rock into tiny grains of sand. And millions of these tiny grains of sand make a beach. So we know that sand is made from weathered and eroded rock. But do you know what rock is made of? Rock is made up of lots of different natural materials called minerals. Lots of sand is made of a mineral called quartz. In fact, almost all the sand on this beach is made from quartz. But the quartz in this sand is tiny. So to see it a little bit better, you need to go and find a very special camera. Today, I'm going to be using a microscope camera. A microscope helps us to see tiny things by making them look much bigger. And the microscope is connected to this screen, so we'll be able to see anything we put under it. Whoa, that is brilliant. But I can zoom in even further. Watch this. Look, can you see the tiny white and shiny yellowish crystals? That's the quartz. I can't believe how much quartz there is in just a small bit of sand. And can you see the green mineral here? That's called glauconite. Isn't it beautiful? I loved learning how sand is made. What was your favourite part? Do you remember what it's called when the big pieces of rock are broken into smaller pieces by wind and water? That's right, it's called weathering. Do you remember the sound the water made when we were on the beach? And did you see the quartz in the sand under the special microscope camera? So the next time you build a sand castle on a beach, you'll know how the sand you used to build it was made. And the next time you see a boat out on the water, you'll know how it uses displacement to float. I'll see you next time. Hello, I'm Maddie, and tonight I'm stargazing. Have you ever looked for stars in the night sky? They look like lots of little bright dots, don't they? And sometimes They even twinkle. But what are stars? And why can we see some of them twinkling in the sky? Do you know how starlight works? Let's find out.
How does it work?
Starlight.
To find out about stars and starlight, I've come here to a planetarium. A planetarium can show us pictures of the sky at night, and the pictures are projected onto this huge curved ceiling. It's called a dome. It's a bit like going to the cinema. Should we see it in action? This is Colin. It's Colin's job to look after the planetarium and turn on the projectors which project the pictures onto the dome. Let's go, Colin. Wow. Look how many stars there are in the sky. That is amazing. Stars make patterns in the sky called constellations.
A constellation is a group of stars that make a big picture when you join them together. This one is called Leo, and it's known as the Lion constellation. This one is called Pisces. We call it the two fish.
Should we see if we can find some? Look, over there, can you see 3 stars in a row?
They're in a diagonal line, right in the middle. Look, there they are.
Let's count them. 1, 2, 3. Those 3 stars are called Orion's belt. And if we join the stars together, they look a bit like a belt, don't they? Over there is another constellation. It's got 7 stars, and it's called the Plough. I think it looks a bit like a saucepan with a bendy handle, don't you? To find out why we can see the stars at night, I think we need to take a closer look.
When we look up at space, we see the stars as dots of light. In space, there are lots of particles of gas and dust floating around. When something big happens in space, like an explosion, gas and dust are pushed together into a ball. The ball of gas and dust gets heavier and heavier until it collapses, pulling in more gas and dust particles. All the dust and gas starts to spin really quickly, and as they squeeze together, they get really, really hot. This makes a star. And because the star is really hot, it lights up. And we see the starlight twinkling in the night sky.
Wow, that was so interesting. Did you know that our sun is a star? Other stars in the sky look really small, don't they? But the sun is really big. That's because the sun is much closer to the Earth than the other stars. Let me show you how it works. We must never look directly at the sun, as it might harm our eyes. So this torch is going to be our sun. Oh, did you hear the sound when I turned it on? It made a click, didn't it? When we see the torch close up, it looks really big. But if I stand further away, now it looks much smaller. Because the sun is close to us, it looks bigger than other stars in the sky. But actually, there are stars out in space that are much, much bigger than the sun, but they look smaller because they're further away.
But to see those stars, we need to wait until it's nighttime.
So we can see them even better, I'm going to use one of my special cameras. This is a telescope camera, and a telescope helps us to see things that are really far away, close up. Oh, wow! Look, can you see the moon?
We can only see a small bit of the moon tonight, and it looks orange. Oh, wow! Can you see those stars in the sky?
That is brilliant. glowing, doesn't it? Well, that's because stars are really, really hot and they give out lots of light. That light travels from the star through space to us here on Earth, and that's why we can see it. How great is that? I loved finding out how starlight works. What was your favourite bit?
Can you remember what we call the patterns that stars make in the sky? That's right, they're called constellations. Did you hear the sound my torch made when I turned it on? And did you see the stars in the night sky with my special telescope camera?
I love to look at the stars when it's dark outside, but when I'm inside, I like to relax, and sometimes I watch films. My favourites are animation films, like cartoons. Oh, hello. This is a flip book. Can you see? Each page has a picture on it.
And when the pages are turned quickly, the pictures look like they're moving.
Just like my flip book, an animation film is made up of lots and lots of pictures. Some animations even use puppets. It's called stop-frame animation. But do you know how stop-frame animations are made? Let's find out.
How is it made?
Stop-frame animation.
To find out how a stop-frame animation is made, I've come here to an animation studio. To make a stop-frame animation, we start with this. This is called a puppet, but inside the puppet is one of these. It's called an armature, and it helps to make the puppet move when we make a stop-frame animation. It looks a bit like a skeleton, doesn't it? Hello.
And just like our skeleton, the armature helps the puppet stand up and move. But to make stop-frame animation, you need more than just a puppet. We need a background for our animation, like these houses. This is called a set.
This is George, and George is an animator. It's his job to move the puppet and take photographs.
And the photographs will be used to make the stop-frame animation, just like our flipbook.
Today, George is going to animate the puppet so it walks along the street and then throws the ball up and down.
Look, George is attaching the ball to its very own armature. It's called a rig and helps him hold the ball in mid-air.
First, George arranges the ball using the rig, and then he moves the puppet into its first position. Once the puppet's in the right position, George takes a photograph.
And this is called a frame. To make a stop-frame animation, we need lots and lots of frames. Each time George moves the puppet and takes a picture, the picture is saved to a computer.
The puppet is going to throw the ball up in the air. So George moves the puppet's arms a tiny bit and then lifts the ball using the rig.
And I'm going to help by taking the next picture.
That looks great, but it will take George about an hour to animate the puppet throwing the ball. So I'm going to film George using one of my special cameras.
This is a time-lapse camera, which means we can film things that happen slowly, but when we watch them back, it happens much quicker.
Okay, I'm all set.
Look, George is moving the puppet a tiny bit before he takes each photo.
Oh, that look great!
And now George is moving the puppet towards the ball, so he can pick it up and throw it away. And George is finished. Now all the pictures have been taken, they come here to an edit suite.
Whoa! Look, here are all the photographs.
Before Ed puts the photos together, we need to take out the rig. Can you see Ed is colouring out the rig, so it will look like the ball is moving on its own?
It's a bit like rubbing out pencil with a rubber.
And Ed needs to do this to every single frame for the whole animation. What else do we need to make our animation?
That's right, sound. This is a microphone and it's going to record the sounds of me walking on gravel and bouncing a ball. A bit like this.
These sounds will make the animation feel and look real.
And it's so much fun.
Sounds great, doesn't it?
That was really fun. Can you see there's a bar on the screen? That's called the timeline.
All the frames are on the timeline in the right order, and Ed is adding the sounds I just recorded from the microphone.
When we make sound to match with pictures, we call it Foley. Right, I think we should watch the finished animation on a big screen. Ready? Here goes.
Look at the puppet! It's moving! Each frame that George made earlier on the set is being played back next to each other really quickly. So it looks like the puppet walks and the ball bounces all on their own.
That happened really quickly, so let's watch it again. The puppet walks in, gives us a wave, sees the ball, gives it a bounce, and then the ball bounces back. It's taken all day to make just 15 seconds. All of those tiny movements have been put together to make this stop frame animation. How amazing is that? What did you like most about seeing how a stop frame animation is made?
Do you remember what each photograph is called that makes up a stop frame animation? That's right, it's called a frame. Did you hear the sound my feet made as they walked on the gravel? It was a crunching noise, wasn't it? And did you see my special camera filming George making our stop frame animation?
So the next time you watch a stop animation film, you'll know how it was made. And when you see some stars twinkling in the sky, you'll know how we can see them on Earth all the way from space. Right, I think I'm going to do some more stargazing. I'll see you next time.
There are lots of things